that is part of the problem. What is the problem? Nigeria, by the way, I spent my first 22 years of life under the colonial rule. I went to university on the same year as Nigeria became independent. And since then, I am now 86. So I lived through it all at different stages. What is the problem? The problem we have is that we have not even identified the problem, and we are trying to find the solution. The problem is simple. When we became independent, colonial masters ruled us and adapted us to their own system, United Kingdom pattern of governance, parliamentary democracy. And so we came and they ran us and trained us and brought us up and employed us for their sake on that pattern. Probably if we had been occupied by the French people, we would have been one of the Francophone countries. But Nigeria and Ghana were British, Sierra Leone, and so on. So we adopted their pattern. At a point we wanted to rule ourselves. There was resistance, master and servant. But finally they succumbed. And they just didn't succumb. There were several constitutional conferences in Lancaster House, in Nigeria, everywhere, between the master and the Nigerians. And at the end, the reason, this country is large. This country has a population. If you come here, there are so many languages and dialects. In Igbo language, when I speak to you in Igbo, is a welcome language. Some people may not understand. When an Ebonyi man speaks his own dialect, but there are Igbos. You can always see common words that the Igbo man says, "Kachao, Mekao." Meka is, any Igbo man understand Meka, Imeka, and so on. So with the multifarious, multi-dimensional language, multi-dimensional religion, was in ethnicity. After negotiation, they thought that what was good for us, for such a country, is a regional federalism. Regional federalism. And that's what Nigeria came into. At that time, Northern Nigeria, Eastern Nigeria, Western Nigeria, that's what the British ruled us. First of all, there was a Northern Directorate and a Southern Directorate, separately run by the British. In the year 1914, the British decided that they're going to amalgamate these two. That's how Northern Nigeria and Southern Nigeria became one country. And in these multifarious things I've just spoken, they decided that what was good for us was regional federalism. Every region, take care of yourself. While we now federate as a country, and we have a government at the center whose job it is to handle all those things that make us one country. Let me explain. If we are not a federation, and we cannot be, we should have been three countries. Western Nigeria, they call it maybe East and North. But there is some common thing that makes a country. One of them, there are just four: defense, currency, immigration and custom, and then foreign affairs. These are the information. So that government in the center is supposed now to handle this on behalf of the three regions. While the three regions became, everybody was running on his own capacity. So there was no need for North to say, oh, just example, before the granting of independence, they wanted to give us in 1958 self-government first. And they said, as the self-government was going on, they said, if any two regions are ready, satisfied that they are ready, they will give us independence. The North said they were not ready. Probably looking behind, many of us, if the South, made up of South, Eastern and West, had said they were ready, probably what we are seeing now will not have happened. But I know that probably also we and the North will have been in war, like you find in India and Pakistan. But luckily, the South, Awolowo and Zik decided, let's wait for our brothers in the North. Many people don't know this history, and this is where we are going round the clock without identifying the problem, so we can identify the solution. So we were amalgamated and allowed us, every region. Eastern region had a flag of Nigeria, green, white, green, but at the center of the white, you found a coat of arms of Eastern region. Western region had green, white, green. At the center, there was a coat of arms of Western region. North had green, white, green. At the center, you had a coat of arms of the North. So there were three coat of arms and one national, which is the federal government, which we are using now. And things were working, my dear sister. Things were working. We experienced it. The first 6 years of our national development. Will you be surprised? If you get 1 naira, what is the problem in dollar? 70 cents. Those of us who had a plane to travel, when you go traveler's check, you had a bundle of money. So if you went to America and they brought 2 naira, you'll be looking for 140 cents. My sister, compare it with what we have now. When you get 1 naira, when you get $1, you look for 1,500 naira. 1,500, that is $1. When in those years, our 1 naira was equivalent to 70 cents of that, 70 over 10, 7/10 of a dollar. That was the position. The University of Nigeria, and before this time, there was only one University College of London in Ibadan, where everybody, all the West Africa, they went there. It was this development, independence, that the leaders of the Eastern region thought that they had enough. And that was the year 1960, when the University of Nigeria was established. And that's why I said I entered the university in that year, in the University of Nigeria. Our own. We didn't do any tutelage with any college. We just had cooperation with the University of Michigan State University in America. Because Zik, who went to school in America, and they had the same type of approach. The British had a vertical approach to education. The Americans had a horizontal. Many young people like you, I'm sure, will not know. When you go to every university in Nigeria today, you have a course called General Studies. It didn't start. It was University of Nigeria, because it's linked to America, that started General Studies. What does it mean? No matter, you are going to be an engineer, you have to have broad-based education. So you must do some course in sociology, in economics. In fact, for me, I was admitted to do English. But I did economics, I did sociology, I did music, I did German, and so on. So that probably, as I'm talking, you are not, as a graduate, you are not oblivious of other knowledge that you can relate with other people. Before long, all the universities in Nigeria started doing it. Why? The first examination in the public service, the first 6 places were taken by students from University of Nigeria. And it made a difference, that's impact. Also, then you go to West. The cocoa house you see today was product of cocoa farming. That was the era of regional democracy. The North, many young people don't know. They could not evacuate the groundnut produced in the North, so They were hitting them at the cargo airports like pyramids, Egyptian pyramids. That's why he talked about groundnut pyramids. So there was development. Our GDP, I think that was 8% compared to what I'm talking about. So we had an experience of 6 years, and that constitution was good. Regional autonomy, then they were in charge of their resources, all their resources, and they contributed 50%. They kept 50%. They contributed 30% to the center in order to fund that government that handles them as a country, and another 20% is left. They called it a sovereign fund, so that in emergency everybody shared that one. So you developed your own, and there was healthy competition. That was the year we refer to, the patriots refer to it as the golden years of Nigeria. Then the military coup came. And also, you must separate the military coup, my dear sister. The coup of January 15, 1966 was a national coup by young boys from all extractions in the army, Nigerian young boys who went to Sandhurst and so on. That the leaders are leading us into their living richly, while the rest of us are poor. And they wanted to change it to get government. As a matter of fact, people are now developing to know that all they wanted, comparing our leaders, they wanted to oust the government and install a war. So it was a coup led by 11 people, out of which only 3 are Igbos. I'm calling why I use this. At the end of it, the coup was a failure. The coup of January 14 was a failure because it succeeded in the west, it succeeded in the north, but for some reason it didn't succeed in the east because a foreign visitor was visiting east. And those boys who are supposed to catch or kill could not have, because of international outcry, to kill the people while they are at the airport seeing off the international Archbishop Macarius. That's why it failed. So it was not deliberate. But what happened? The young northern officers, considering the killing, decided that it was an Igbo coup. And that's why they decided not to kill their own people, but to kill their own. This is where the problem started. Why I'm saying we must separate the January 15 coup from the other coups that followed, to which I will come. In this confusion, it was the Nigerian Senate whose president was Akweke Nwafor from Nnewi. He was the president. The Senate, civilian Senate, took a decision because there was chaos in the coup. Nobody knew that the coup was coming, but some people have seized power. It was the Senate that now invited the military, the army of Nigeria, please come and stabilize us. We don't know what your boys are doing. As a matter of fact, Aguiyi himself, as commander, was not part of the coup. His life was in danger. But like when invited, he came and made sure that those boys, Zog was still in the north, somebody was still somewhere, and he said, you wait, I've taken over the command. And it was trouble bringing the boys because they wanted to be sure that when they come, nobody is going to hurt them or court-martial them. So Aguiyi, as head of the army, was also in danger. But he bravely took the invitation. And his first broadcast, Nigerians, we are not trained to govern. I'm almost quoting. We are not trained to govern. Therefore, we are not going to follow the constitution that is democratic. We will stabilize you during the period. We stabilize you by our own rule, command and control. In the army, the commander says go, and you go. If you don't go, you can be court-martialed. You say stop, you stop. You say shoot, you shoot. That is how the army was trained, and that is how they were going to do us. So, all the ideas of parliamentary, they suspended that 1963 constitution. They suspended it. It's suspended later. It's suspended. It's not abrogated. And that's the point I'm going to. The other coups that followed were coups not national. The northern officers said, oh, Igbo, they went on to kill all Igbo officers. They not only left it, they went to the villagers, to the civilians who live in, and started killing Igbos. That's why the pogrom issue started. Because some people misconstrued what happened, which was a mistake. The other coup that follows now become power after power. They installed Yakubu Gowon as head of state. Did you know what Yakubu Gowon said? His first speech, there is no basis for Nigerian unity. Later on, when the war came, he now said to keep Nigeria one, he said, task that must be done. These are social history that people should know. So what I'm trying to say is that when the military came, they decided to run us, not on our constitution, but they started by, they still left us in regions. Ojukwu in Enugu, Usman Kashina in the north, and some, I forgot to name the Yoruba man in the west. During this period, Nigeria, in civil government democracy, we are able, following agitations, to have a meeting and create a fourth region called Midwest region, because it was necessary, led by Osadebe. So by the time the military came, we already had 4 regions, and David Ejo was the one in the Midwest. So the army was organized in our regional set, but things started happening.